All right, man, peace. So now this is the continuation of the Jemele Hill versus Donald Trump storyline. Now some supporting characters have decided to add themselves to the narrative, one of them being Kevin Durant. It was already covered on part one that a lot of quote-unquote woke or liberal black athletes have cast their lot in with Jemele Hill. She's going to be a figurehead leader for the so-called woke movement, you know, which is an offshoot of the Black Lives Matter or the Black Lesbians Matter movement, which is being led by George Soros and a lot of other multi-billionaire Caucasian Jewish liberals on the back end. So anyway, let's see what they have to say about this situation.
Kevin Durant is continuing his war with Donald Trump, saying he's...
Isn't that funny? I did a video on Kevin Durant versus Donald Trump, and I used that exact term. I said, Kevin Durant declares war.
He stands behind embattled ESPN anchor Jemele Hill 100%. Welcome to TMZ Sports Van here with Michael J. Jonathan Trump Babcock.
Well, I mean, it's not really a surprise that Kevin Durant will stand behind Jemele Hill. He's used to standing behind black women who dominate him. Look at his mother. You know, once again, so-called black man, you know, I know I'm probably going to get some blowback in regards to the statements that I make about Jemele Hill. I've been making these statements in regards to her type for a long time now. Once again, none personal. I don't have anything personal against Jemele Hill or even Christine He Raped Me Leahy. I just note certain character traits that I like to highlight for a lot of you brothers. And once again, it's not a surprise that she has injected herself into this Donald Trump narrative. Donald Trump has really exposed the mental and psychological fragility that most of our people in this society have. Very, very mentally fragile so-called black people. The last 8 years or the previous 8 years with Obama have made so-called blacks feel like they were a little closer to getting that hug. Donald Trump has really injected a dose of reality into the so-called black male and female, liberal so-called black male and female, and they feel really alienated right now. They need somebody to blame, and they're going to blame Donald Trump. Once again, the KKK, the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, they've been a large part of Caucasian America, particularly middle America, for a long time now. And of course, you'll have many Caucasians who will say that's not true. I'm not a member of the KKK or the skinheads or what have you. Look, middle America is a subculture of what you call white conservatism. Meaning what? That basically means that for the most part, they don't like so-called minorities. And I don't care. You know, a lot of numbnuts come on my channel, as I've noted before, and they try to make some type of correlation between me speaking against liberal ideologies and me being a co-signer of conservatism. No, sir. I'm not caught in the liberal versus conservative vortex like you. Not even a little bit. I address liberal ideologies because those are the ideologies that our people, meaning the so-called black man and woman, tend to embrace. I make these videos so that the so-called black man could see what's going on around him. I don't direct any of my videos at the so-called black woman. If they want to listen, cool. But I don't direct my videos at them because I know that the so-called black woman is for the most part liberal. And most of them are arrogant, hard-headed, obstinate, and for the most part obsolete. Okay? So, the first thing that the so-called black woman has to do is restore that rapport and that relationship with her husband. That's her purpose on the earth, is to be a wife and a mother. That is her job. And that's why I've said previously that the most impressive thing that I've heard a so-called black woman say in a long time was when Andre Ward's wife got interviewed and they asked her about what she thought about Sergei Kovalev's comments about her husband. And she said she didn't know because she's not on the internet. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But just that statement showed me where her focus was at. Her focus is on her husband and on her children. And that's the greatest thing that the so-called black woman can do. Right? I address the so-called black man because the so-called black man has to get right in a myriad of ways. All right? Main thing is that cats do not have a ruling class mentality. They're too busy following behind females and their emotional ups and downs. And that is not a sign of mental stability. Kevin Durant is not mentally stable. What he is a good athlete. And he's going to show you that in his comments when he's interviewed. Watch what he says and watch how he says it.
What's up, man?
What's up is Jemele Hill is still under fire from the White House. Donald Trump still and his White House are gunning for her job over at ESPN.
Right.
No. Donald Trump made a statement basically noting how ESPN's ratings have fallen off since they've embraced the woke liberal mentality. And it's the truth. They're losing subscribers all over the place. That is just the truth. People are getting tired of hearing or being subjected to a lot of their propaganda promoting transgenderism, homosexuality, lesbianism, female empowerment, things of that nature. It started with Ray Rice, and it reached a crescendo with the Caitlyn Jenner award at the ESPYs.
Right. President Trump's not letting this go. He actually went to Twitter today to address the Jemele Hill situation. He said ESPN is paying a really big price for its politics and bad programming. People are dumping it in record numbers. Apologize for the untruth.
Everything that he said for the most part is true. Let me say this. I don't make videos to get into the is Trump racist or not? You know, and this is once again is why I constantly highlight the thought process of the so-called liberal blacks. Right? The so-called liberal blacks try to front as if they're concerned with racism. They're really not. They're really concerned with being accepted by the Caucasians. That's why racism hurts them so bad, because they want that hug. Is Donald Trump a so-called racist? Does he come from a so-called racial or racist background? He most likely does. I see a lot of people talking about the Central Park Five. Look, I'm from New York. I lived through that whole thing. People talking about how Donald Trump took out newspaper ads to castigate the Central Park Five. And look, let me say this real quick. Those cats, they were found to not have been involved with the rape of that woman, but they were engaging in something called wilding. And cats who from New York know this. It's when, you know, a group of teenagers, 25, 30 deep, they run around and they harass people. They do certain things. You know, sometimes bad things happen to you because you're doing something bad, and you get accused of doing something, or you get found to be doing something that you didn't do, all because you were doing something else bad. I know that for a fact. I've had family members, I've had friends who've gotten caught up in shit that they weren't even doing, but they should have gotten caught for other things that they did. The Central Park Five, those dudes, they wasn't doing nothing good that morning. It was very unfortunate what they got caught up in. And when you get caught up in bullshit, it makes you vulnerable to attacks by people like Donald Trump. It makes you vulnerable to the prison industrial complex. A lot of times cats make very bad decisions, and then they want to cry racism when their bad decisions are going to result in them falling into the mouth of the beast. Donald Trump also has a record associated with a lot of affluent so-called black athletes that you guys would call revolutionary, like Muhammad Ali and other people who have given him awards for his service to the so-called black community. Look, I don't get involved back in the back and forth. My platform is so-called black people need to have their own land, their own government, their own police force. This is what I've always said. And that's going to come when the elect get the kingdom. All right? A lot of you so-called black people, particularly you pro-blacks, are so frustrated because you don't really have an end game. I've already stated what the end game should be. If you're really concerned about being empowered in this society, you have to get a culture. Once you get a strong culture, then you get a strong economic base. How are you going to get a culture? Culture gets instilled through mass traumatic events. That is what's going to happen here. The so-called black man and woman are going to have to be put through a mass traumatic event where they can only turn to each other for support. And then a lot of the bullshit will fade. A lot of so-called blacks are just as racist as Donald Trump. A lot of them play the favoritism card with famous blacks, just like they accuse Donald Trump of doing. Donald Trump is not the problem. Donald Trump is a president who came into power in January of this year. The problems that our people have existed long before Donald Trump. When you hear so-called blacks, liberal blacks, complain about Donald Trump, what do they say? He's dividing America. What do they really mean? He's stopping us from getting that hug. Right? The criticism that I want to hear about Donald Trump should be predicated around how has the economy been affected by Donald Trump's presidency? How have the jobs been affected? Things of that nature. That's what I want to hear about in criticisms of a president. I don't want to hear about divisiveness. I don't give two fucks about that. All right?
Truth. Okay, first of all, I'm surprised that he didn't say the failing ESPN. But anyway, but here's the deal. So
he has not let it go. His press secretary said it was a fireable offense, and now Donald Trump has followed up and addressed the situation himself.
Now one of the biggest stars in all of sports, not just basketball, but all of sports is weighing in, Kevin Durant. We got Kevin Durant out leaving Poppy, one of the most popping clubs out here in Hollywood now. We asked him what he thought about this entire Jemele Hill versus Donald Trump thing. He's on Jemele's side 100%. Check out what KD had to say.
What do you think about the Trump administration trying to get Jemele to retire from ESPN? You think it's a fireable offense to call Trump a white supremacist?
Hey, look, man. I play basketball, and I'm behind Jemele. I support her. That's what it's all about. She stand up for what she believes in. I'm with it.
Nigga, you could barely stand up for anything. You drunk out of your damn mind. He talking about you, but you notice he led with, I play basketball. These are the guys that a lot of you so-called black people want to be your ambassadors in race relations. All right, I've already stated this very explicitly. The so-called black race is the only race where they proactively want to exhibit black athletes and entertainers as leaders. Why is that? Because they know that for the most part, they are bought and paid for. They know that they're two-dimensional figures who think on a two-dimensional level. All right. What does that mean? That means that they don't really consider or understand what's going on around them. They don't consider the machinations of what's going on and why it's going on. They just want to be, appeased emotionally. That's really not somebody who's suitable to be in a leadership position. So this is why it is so easy for corporations and governments to take athletes and try to make them ambassadors over a certain group of people that they want to keep subjugated. I'm sorry, but I don't respect Kevin Durant's opinion on these affairs, not just because he's an athlete, because every once in a while you do have an athlete whose brain is functioning at a relatively high level. It's just very rare. And he is certainly not an exception to that, to that rule that most athletes are just not that deep. Okay? When I say that deep, they don't really consider what's going on around them. Some of them are. Every once in a while you have a Muhammad Ali who was not particularly book smart, but he was able to comprehend and understand the ramifications of certain ideologies. He was able to comprehend certain machinations that were going on at the higher levels. These other athletes now today, they're trying to replicate what he was about, but they're not all the way there with it because, as I've stated numerous times, Muhammad Ali was a member of an organization that had an end game, right? Whether you agree with it or not, I don't necessarily agree with their end game because I don't agree with their spiritual philosophy. But, at least they had some form of consistent spiritual ideology or culture that they were trying to implement, right? These guys, they have no plan. Their plan is, please, white man, give me a hug.
Wow.
Kevin Durant
totally had her back there.
Absolutely had her back. And like I said, this is not the first time that he's been critical of President Trump. There was a Kevin Durant parade out near his hometown there in Washington, D.C., right there in Trump's backyard. And he very, very colorfully dismissed the president. Check it out.
Other players have been vocal about Trump lately, what I'm saying? We're supposed to be. Right. Do we see you getting involved with that at some point, KD?
You know what? This makes me value Kevin Durant's opinion in this situation differently, less, because he hates Donald Trump, so anybody who opposes Trump, he's going to ride with them.
Well, that's partially true. He is going to ride with anybody who is against Trump. And that's why, that's what makes it so easy for him to follow the emotional rants of a liberal black woman who's just looking for attention, because he's just looking for attention. A lot of these rants that you see from these athletes, it's just part of a fad or a trend. It's an extension of the woke phenomena of last year, where all of a sudden, you had a lot of these so-called black people who wanted to act like they were so pro-black and they were so fighting for the cause. They really did not even know what they were, what their focus was going to be. They got galvanized by the Black Lesbians Matter movement, and they were just following along, diddy bopping. Now we're in 2017. Some of these protests and these movements have started to peter out. So they have to be, regenerated, reinvigorated by casting Donald Trump as the reason why people are more divided than they've been in the past, allegedly, and the reason why you have the resurgence of many of these so-called white nationalist groups, which has nothing to do with anything. If anything, if you want to give Trump credit for anything, maybe he has emboldened them to come out to the forefront. But I mean, that's what you should like. If you're somebody who loves truth, you should like the truth being brought to the forefront, as opposed to being hidden. That shows you a lot of pro-blacks really don't like the truth. They just want to live a lie.
Right, but in this situation, he's saying it's not even about Trump. He said she's standing up for what she believes in. And Babcock, you're somebody that's all in love, all enamored with the First Amendment, as we all should be. So shouldn't you as well be standing up for Jemele Hill?
I got to be honest. Look, there's people on both sides of the fence here.
Whoa. Are you trying to say that there's good on both sides?
No. Of course there's good on both sides. What do you mean?
Now, you see, as usual, the black liberal, the silly black liberal Negro Van Jones, he's trying to play the only my side is good. And I told you that oftentimes the people who practice or who utilize or adhere to the liberal ideologies, they'll use that technique. Only our side is good. I noted that with the Max Kellerman debate against Will Cain, where Max Kellerman was trying to say that it's about good versus evil. This is how the liberals, try to bolster their argument, because deep down, they don't really even believe in a lot of the things that they're saying, because most of the things that they believe are experimental. They're things that have never worked before in history. Things like homosexual empowerment, transgender empowerment, female empowerment over the man. These are things that have never existed or worked in history. OK, so they have to create this pretense or this pretext that they're right and anybody who opposes them is wrong, because they really don't even believe in most of the bullshit that they're saying. I mean, if you really notice it, if you ever listen to a female, going on and ranting, she doesn't really believe most of the things that she says. She just wants to see if she can make you believe it.
Oh, you playing a little bit as good on both sides.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm saying there are people on both sides.
Let me ask you a question. Did you like turn your tiki torch back in after what happened? Did you still have your tiki torch?
No, Babcock is not a tiki torch holder. And when he talks about tiki torch, he's clearly accusing him of being a white nationalist. Babcock is your average Caucasian who comes from a conservative home. He doesn't particularly believe that so-called black people have grievances that are reasonable, but he keeps it to himself. I noted this in the video that I did about Jimmy the Greek. The reason why Jimmy the Greek had to be fired was because he brought a lot of backroom talk to the front room. He said things that he wasn't supposed to say. This is why a lot of Caucasians will disavow groups like the Ku Klux Klan and the skinheads and the neo-Nazis. It's because in their mind, you're taking things too far, right? In the average Caucasian's mind, the power that they have is in subterfuge. It's in guile. It's in saying things behind closed doors, planning, and executing those plans, as opposed to coming out with torches and all that other silly shit. It's like you're going too far. We can use these people. We can manipulate them for our own ends. You're here talking about trying to get them out of the country. No, we need them for slave labor. And this is why they're so angry with Trump about the DACA thing. That's why Obama brought in provisions like DACA. They need the Mexicans because the Mexicans provide a slave labor workforce. Okay? Everything is about the money system. Everything is about debt slavery. And, you know, a lot of these liberals, people like Jemele Hill, she's just looking for attention. She's a silly 40-something-year-old broad who knows that she's never going to get married. She's never going to have a child unless that dude slips up while he's plowing her out. All right. None of those things are ever going to happen for her. So she has to get attention by trying to act like she's so socially conscious and socially aware. I've stated already, she has a history of making a lot of racially inflammatory, quote unquote, inflammatory statements based off of what she perceives to be true. She made a statement about the Boston Celtics fans being close to Hitler, and she made a statement about Calipari. In the last video, I mixed up the two. Look up, brothers, I don't look up a lot of this stuff. I just remember it offhand. All right. But she's been suspended for different things before. Like she got suspended for the Hitler comment. But, she's not going to be suspended for this because, as I've stated, it's good for the brand of their show. Okay?
Oh, so can I say what I was going to say? Don't disregard everything Vanna said. I don't think there are good people on both sides of this issue, no. But I think that a lot of athletes have come to her defense, and I feel like she has really gained a new level of respect amongst athletes, and I feel like this is actually going to really elevate her career, right?
Well, it's good for her brand. That's what I said on the previous video. It's obviously good for her brand. It's good for the brand of their show. That they're mavericks, that they're going to speak their mind, that they're going to, quote unquote, speak the truth. All right. That's what they do. She's just another person, spiritually void, looking for attention.
Right? She's put herself out there. Obviously, you never want to be in a bad situation with your employer.
No, but it's worth it. For her employer being mad, the respect that she got from a lot of athletes is totally worth, I think, the heat that she got.
If she broke any social media rules, ESPN is completely okay to be mad with her. But one thing is this shows that the First Amendment, Babcock, is alive and well and is breathing. And Kevin Durant is in favor of...
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of these liberal people, they only want the First Amendment to be alive and well when it's helping them. But when all those white trash were marching in Charlottesville, utilizing their freedom of speech, everybody got mad and demonized them and said, well, they're just evil. They deserve to be wiped out. You know, the First Amendment wasn't set up just for things that you agree with. It was set up for things that you don't know, for things that you don't agree with. That's the point. And at the end of the day, those low-level white trash who were carrying the tiki torches, yes, they had their right to peacefully protest as well. Okay? Because you're not going to change their minds. By the time a person is walking around with a, with a rune symbol or any other type of so-called Nazi symbol or Celtic pagan symbol on their clothing or on some type of apparatus that they're carrying, there's no chance for you to get a hug from them. I mean, unless they're gangbanging a black chick. Which, hey, you have certain black chicks that are dating neo-Nazis, believe it or not. Okay? And as I've already stated about Jemele Hill in the past, look at her history. She is already, she stated proactively that she is pro interracial dating. She co-signed Kerry Champion being in a relationship with Ryan Russillo. I mentioned that on the previous video. And she was running around doing a very awkward lap dance for Hugh Jackman. Okay? I'm gonna see if I can include something at the end of this video, just to show brothers how ridiculous this woman is, or this female is.
Of it, and Babcock thinks good on both sides. Michael Babcock actually hit him up.
Look at this nigga. This nigga drunk as hell. He ain't thinking about no damn Jemele Hill. He thinking about getting home and calling up a couple of them Instagram hoes and smashing them out.
Hit him up on Twitter, everybody.
Follow me.
But anyway, we'll see. The Jemele Hill story is not going to go away. They're going to try to keep the flames going. I will say this Donald Trump presidency, this is one of the best narratives to ever happen for the liberal media. It gives them something to talk about that they can use and exacerbate as much as they can. All right, peace. So now this is just a little continuation of, the Jemele Hill video, just to give you brothers some understanding on what you're dealing with so that you won't be so easily manipulated. And, for some cats out there, especially the pro-black cats, there's really nothing going to help. Like I said before, all a so-called black woman has to do is just use the phrase white supremacy. And some of these guys, you know, they're so simpish that they just bust a nut right in their camouflage pants, you know, as they sit behind their mother's computer talking about the revolution. But anyway, as you can see here, this is what I was talking about with Jemele Hill when she was giving a lap dance to Hugh Jackman, who plays Wolverine in the X-Men. I remember this episode. This is back when they were doing Numbers Never Lie. This was before the show became His and Hers. And then, of course, it became the Sports Center at 6 p.m. on ESPN. Hugh Jackman was on the show, and she's a huge Hugh Jackman fan, of course, as most liberal black women are. They love the white male stars in Hollywood. And he gave her a lap dance, and then she gave him, you know, one of her awkward, no rhythm having lap dances, you know, where she's looking like a retarded babysitter. But anyway, point being, brothers, look, man, I don't know how many times I have to say this. The liberal black woman makes racial statements for attention. That's why I call them, they're racialist. Okay? That's one of their alter egos, is to be a racialist. They make inflammatory racial comments for sensationalism, for attention. She has a history of doing this. Okay? As I already stated, she called the Boston Celtics fans Hitlers. You know, when I did my first video, I remember that she said something about Hitler and something about Calipari, and I had combined the two together. You know, she said something else about Calipari, but she called the Boston Celtics fans a bunch of Hitlers, and she got suspended for it. All right? So that's what she does. She makes a lot of inflammatory racial statements. Meanwhile, she lusts after white men. You know, in the meantime, she'll settle for her black trainer. But anyway. All right, so I figured I'd kill two birds with one stone here. As I already stated, Jemele Hill is a provocateur, agent of chaos, as normal, as usual with liberal black women. She makes a bunch of racial statements, but this is her real goal. As I always tell you, brothers, is to get that hug, to get the acceptance, to be on a Caucasian man's arm. Here she is in a photo with the other black female at ESPN that you brothers love so much, Carrie Champion. The Caucasian in the middle is Ryan Russillo. He also has a show on ESPN, and who, by the way, he recently got caught, and I mentioned this already. The man got caught butt naked in somebody else's hotel room, falling down drunk. The man was so drunk the night before, he broke into somebody else's hotel room, thought it was his hotel room, passed out on the bed, damn drawers around his ankles, butt-ass naked. All right? But, you know, you won't hear about that too much. You got to look that type of stuff up. But he was with Carrie Champion for a long time. You know, once again, the black female that a lot of brothers love so much on ESPN. This is the same woman, Carrie Champion, who decided that she was going to try to make a name for herself by calling out Floyd Mayweather. Once again, as I've already stated, ad infinitum, Floyd Mayweather is the target of many of these lame-ass, used-up, expiring female sports analysts on these channels, because he represents everything that they despise, because most of them know that they're going to die without ever being married and never having children. So now when they see a man like Floyd Mayweather, who knows what most of these modern day females are, and he's waxing fat. When I say waxing fat, meaning doing very well for himself, they get very angry. Now, to get back to the point, this female Carrie Champion decided that she was going to try to take Floyd Mayweather to task when she was interviewing him. But she never mentioned anything about the Caucasian shock jock co-host Artie Lang, who used to work with Howard Stern, who said that he had a slave fantasy about Carrie Champion. She never once got on TV and mentioned it, but she felt compelled to tell Floyd Mayweather that he should apologize to his female fans for getting involved in domestic violence incidents. But she never got on TV and said that the black woman should not be objectified as a sex slave, as Artie Lang was trying to imply. And it was something that was all over the internet. So it was known, but she never addressed it. And as we could see, here's why. Because, you know, she loves her white boy. I don't know if they're still together, but I mean, you can look at Carrie Champion and see how she gets down. And for a lot of you cats who don't know any better, Jemele Hill, she has been a proponent of interracial dating in the past. That's her business. I really could care less. Point being is that she's not so-called pro-black. She's just pro-attention. Here's another picture of Kerry Champion with Ron Russillo, just to prove my point. This is when they was going hot and heavy. Once again, you brothers, you fall for a lot of these little silly chicks on TV. Most of them don't want you. All right. This is what she really wants. This is why I stated before, when Serena Williams stated that when you get famous, you have to be with a Caucasian man or you have to go lesbian. She meant that. All right. They've tried to say that she really didn't make those statements. No, I believe that she did. OK. And most of these black females who venerate people like Serena Williams, they believe the same thing. These liberal black females do. Yes, they do. Here's another photo that I found on Jemele Hill's Twitter where she said, in the caption, she said, this is what happens when your woman starts to thug clap. Right? As you can see, Ryan Russillo's not paying her no mind. He's just looking at her like, no problem. The same way you clap in your hands, I'm going to clap the head of my penis off your nose when we get home. OK? But anyway, this is just to accentuate to you brothers what is going on behind the scenes at a lot of these sports networks that you guys take so seriously what they say about race. Oh, and here's the best photo that I found so far. I'm probably going to make this. I'll probably make this the thumbnail for the video. This is your girl Jemele Hill throwing up the Satan hand sign with her left hand, the Manu Cornuto hand sign. Showing you that she is, she's familiar with some of the mysteries. OK, and also she has the tongue out for Kali. OK, so I'm sure that she is a sorority member and she is a worshiper of the mother goddess, which makes sense when you look at a lot of the ideologies that she espouses. Once again, brothers, please do not fall for the bullshit. OK. Do not fall for the bullshit. The so-called liberal black female is not your friend. I don't know how many times I have to say that. All right. She is a racialist, globalist, and most of all, feminist. They worship themselves and they worship the mother goddess. They will use the so-called black man and the black man's plight to try to gain favor with him and to get attention for themselves and to keep the so-called black man in a state of sleep. Their job is to be a handler for the so-called black man from childhood to adulthood so that he does not understand what's going on around him. OK, simple as that. That's why you see lames like Dwayne Wade and Kevin Durant co-signing her because they don't know shit. All right. You see, Dwayne Wade is with Gabrielle Union and this guy, Kevin Durant, he worships his mother. They don't know what's going on. All right. This is what really goes on behind it. Look at this broad, man. No wonder they use so much. Shit. They probably pay her so much because they got to cover all her makeup charges. Look at her damn face. Look, I think bro look like she got hit in the face with a frying pan. The hell is going on? And look at the caption. Well, you might as well go in my mouth then. Yeah, I bet. I bet many people have went in your damn mouth. But anyway, this is just to show you brothers what goes on behind the curtain. When a lot of you guys get so caught up in what a silly broad says, Trump just ran on white supremacy. Oh, please. All that shit is so fucking lame. All these people are bank supremacists. They're all supremacists in favor of the international bankers. And yes, there's a trickle down to so-called white supremacy because they're in their kingdom right now. All right. But, you brothers got to think on a three-dimensional level, on a higher level than this silly shit. If you want to impress me, a liberal black woman, stop supporting lesbianism and abortion and things of that nature, since you're so concerned about the black man, allegedly. But anyway, peace.